everyone, we are here at KubeCon and I just found Bret. You may know him from his YouTube channel, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about the education side of things.
Yeah.
Because KubeCon is all about educating people, maybe that new people, experienced people, all the announcements coming up, new projects coming out. But before we move forward, how has your experience been for the conference?
Well, this is great. I mean, it's great to be back. This is my first KubeCon after the pandemic, so seeing all my friends, seeing all the ambassadors, all the Docker captains, all the community leaders, all the meetup leaders. It's almost like a family reunion.
Yeah.
And
can you tell us a little bit more about you're going to booths and you're running all these sessions and there are keynotes. Have you had any interesting discussions around educating people when it comes to cloud native? Because when I'm at companies and when I'm at conferences like this, we often hear all the buzz around Kubernetes. But if I'm talking to it about some company, they're like, hey, we're not using it because it's very complex.
It is.
And our engineers don't know about it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to onboard, and you have to skill them and everything. And you being a creator, an educator, how can we move forward in the right direction to educate more people about cloud native?
Yeah. It's a topic that's a struggle for people even here learning, and the people that are building it. I don't think there is any magic bullet. I think the real trick is to pace yourself and start slow. I think the biggest thing I see, and I talk about this in my talks when I do sessions a lot on going to production, is that everyone wants to bundle it all in the first time. So they want everything to be awesome and new all at once. They want Docker, they want Kubernetes, they want Prometheus monitoring, they want fancy new logging, they want all the things automated and fancy. And if you've been in IT a while, you know that our projects are typically twice as long as they should be and twice the budget as they should be. So we have a tendency to overcomplicate and do too much. So I think setting your sights low, starting slow, just even if you're new to Kubernetes, just one app in a Kubernetes cluster, just one, maybe a couple of pods, you learn so much, right? The first day you go production with just one little app, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to suddenly realize, oh, I need to solve, I don't have remote access, or I need a better observability or monitoring. And then you're going to have to go solve that problem before you suddenly throw on another 1,000 containers, right? So I think the key is to start small and realize that just because we have all these products and boosts doesn't mean you need to use all that to be productive. And at the end of the day, if the business is able to move faster, if your software team is able to deploy faster, deploy more often, and recover faster, you're winning. Even if you only did 3 little things, right? You're still winning. You don't have to do all the things first.
Yeah. And there are so many tools.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out there. One, I saw 7 for cost monitoring itself.
Yeah.
If you go down this route, you'll see so many people doing focusing on the same problems.
Yeah.
So the question is how do you choose?
Well, I was going to say, you and I are in this space. We're living this life, and I don't recognize a third of these vendors, right? It's so much. So there's a little bit of a trick you have to do with yourself and your team, because if you're just one person, I call that solo DevOps. If you're just one person in your team that's kind of responsible for a lot of this, then you just have to accept that you probably just need to pick the mainstream tool, or it tends to be a little obvious if you go look at the Stack Overflow surveys of tooling, or I'm trying to think, there's a couple other DevOps surveys, and you can see some of the products people are using. So pick the top 1 or 2, right? And then don't potentially just put off a lot of the other things till later and get started. Because I think it's all about you learn a tool a little bit, then you actually try to start using it, and you rinse and repeat. But if you try to do all three things at once, you're gonna really struggle, and you might even get told that you might have outages, you might have problems, and you don't want that, because if you're starting something new in your company, like cloud native migrations, there's going to be a lot of nervous people, right? So you don't want to push them too fast, and you don't want to cause any sort of outages or problems, because they're going to blame cloud native for that, right? I'm a big fan of taking the plumbing and just using what the internet already provides. And plumbing is things like your registry. You don't need to run that yourself, especially day one, right? Use the cloud registries, use Docker Hub, use GitHub container registry, use all those registries. If you're using logging and monitoring, if you don't have a Kubernetes friendly way to do that, then use the SaaS, use the cloud that you have for now, and then over time you'll learn what you really need, and you're going to probably end up changing that anyway, right? So use the SaaSes to avoid you from having to have 3 other people to help you.
Yeah.
Right. So
couldn't agree more. And speaking of which, from the learner's point of view, how do you keep up with all these technologies? Like,
I definitely don't have a secret answer for that. So come to KubeCon or watch the videos on YouTube because that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yep.
And yeah, there's like what's great about, if there's any silver lining to having the pandemic, is all of a sudden we have a lot of great content YouTubers out.
Yep.
So you don't have to read the docs as much to get your little 101s. And I mean, we can sit here and sort of name drop all the people we know in the community, other ambassadors, other Docker captains that are sharing that content. So I'm a very hands-on person. I think a lot of us are. So I think there's all this new educational content coming out, not just videos, but we even at the keynote, I'm sure by now the KubeCon keynote will be out either this week or next week on YouTube. And they talked about a couple of new training options, one new platform that's out that's more hands-on content and getting your hand in the command line in the browser and actually doing these things. That starts to give you that muscle memory, and you get that whole, you're watching, you're hearing, and you're typing, so you're doing the kinetic as well. I think that's really important. So changing that modular or the modality of how you're learning. So don't just read a book, don't just watch a video, don't just follow the tutorials. Kind of do all of them and set yourself up time, because if you don't make time for this, we're all busy. We're all super busy. So what I do is I block out some time on my Friday mornings. For me, Friday mornings is usually a slow day because everybody's kind of wrapping it up for the week. So I block off a couple hours on that Friday morning, and I deliberately try to follow a tutorial or read me on something new. And just to get the curiosity going so I can understand, like Teleport or any other tool out there, I will try it, and just as a quick little hour-long tutorial. And that sticks with you. So later, when the problem arises, you're like, you know what? I think there's a tool for this. There's a solution for this. And then I just go through the landscape. I mean, we go through the CNCF landscape website, just Google CNCF landscape, find all the tooling, right?
Yeah.
Or just follow your channel and then watch all the tooling channels or all the tooling videos, and you learn that tool for like an hour and then just walk away. You don't have to learn these things super deep. I think it's more about the difference between like a new person and someone like you or me might be that I've played a little bit, just a tiny little bit with each tool. So I know when I need to go back to it. Yeah, because I don't know how to implement it, but I know why it exists. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing, Bret.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in touch with Bret, check out his YouTube channel. I'll leave the links in the description below. And yeah, thanks again.